I'll expand on that after I talk about number 3. But we've got to focus on financial education. The Wall Street Journal came out with an interesting article that said that financial illiteracy is an American problem. And we know that when white folks catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia. So if financial illiteracy is an American problem, it is 10 times the problem in the black community. How are we going to close this wealth gap that has grown over the last 50 years, where white wealth is 20 times that of black wealth? How are we going to close that gap? Everything begins with education. Just as when the slaves became free, what is the first thing slaves did? They began building small classrooms, then small schools, then larger schools, and within 50 to 100 years, we had an entire system of historically black colleges and universities. It begins with education. If we're going to close the wealth gap, we must not continue to be the most financially illiterate people in America. That we are 400 years in, and we are at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters in this country. We must fix this. If the future is going to look good, we have to become a financially savvy and financially literate people. The future. You cannot talk about the future without talking about the black family. There is no culture on earth that has progressed and has succeeded where the core value is not the family. We know what the core value is of Hispanics. We see it all the time. We read the word all the time. La familia, the family. Why are Hispanics gaining on us economically and outpacing us economically along with Asians? Because they have 2 people working on the economics of the family instead of 1. When we talk about the family, we must heal the wounds between the black woman and the man and the black man. We have got to reconstruct the core black family. Which means if we are to do that, and I want to say this and still be loved, our men must now equal the performance of our women. That our women are outperforming us in every industry that you can imagine. There are more black women in law school, engineering school, medical school, engineering school than black men. There are lots of systemic and institutional reasons for this. But we, as black men, have to man up and give our women more viable options and better options. It is a struggle. The black family is critical. Oftentimes when I'm lecturing out on the circuit, someone will raise their hand and say, Dr. Fraser, what happened to black people? Why are we slipping into darkness? Why are the indices and the indexes and the statistics getting worse? And I'm apologetic a bit about my answer. Now, there's not one answer because there's never one thing. There's a multiple of things. But one of the things that I've noticed in my 76 years is that we began to change when our music changed. Let me repeat that for you. We changed when our music changed. Do you know how important music is to black people? Do you know how important rhythm is to black people? It began with slavery. It is a form of communication for black people. It's a form of instruction for black people. When our music changed, we began to change. Hip-hop Not in its earliest days, but in the latter earlier stages, when the music turned toxic and negative and began demeaning our people, our women, our culture. Now it's taking a turn, I think, for the better. And rises a brother like Kendrick Lamar, the first rapper to get the Pulitzer Prize. I think it's changing. I think it needs to change. And these are the kinds of things that we have to have a really, really tough discussion about.